Day 10. We were all sat in the gloom, watching the lights of Archulus's bomb tick round in his open stomach. Squash had by now rolled off him, so we could get a closer look at the device, but tied as we were to our chairs, there wasn't much we could actually see, and Archulus was afraid of looking himself, in case it blew his emotional fuse circuits again.
What I don't understand is how he managed to nab us,
said Bettina.
We've been so careful about hiding our tracks. We hid that shuttle so well nobody would have found it in a million years, even if I do say so myself. I mean, it's not like we handed out its coordinates out to any old alien.
Oops, said Lando, the colour draining from his face. But he looked so trustworthy, didn't he, Colin? I nodded. How was I to know that he would? He told his story about the young Mekkion from Friends of the Red Weed, and the coordinates we'd been given. Lando could just about see the note from the top of his pocket. I read them out.
It says, "Ha ha, fooled you in a Mekkion calculator if you turn it upside down," said
Archulus. What? Said the Clandusprod.
"We used to do it all the time in lessons when we got bored," said
Archulus.
"Normally it's great fun. Not so much today."
Wow, said Robin. The only word I knew that worked on a calculator upside down was Hollis, like the Earth Group and the album we were playing earlier, she said.
"I've a lot more numbers than the rest of you,"
Archulus said as we looked confused.
"Our binary systems run to 30 for a start."
Then I was fooled, said Lando. But he was a child, a Mekkion. I thought for sure he'd be telling the truth. I mean, all children are in it together against the adults, aren't they?
Children could be bought out too,
said Bettina.
Probably by those two good-for-nothing teachers. All they would need to do is hide out for us where we parked our shuttle and where those new coordinates are and wait to clobber us there. Wonder if they mean anything. Are they real numbers too, Archulus?
"Oh yes,"
he said.
"I think so. Maybe somewhere off the west coast of Decreeta, I'm sure. Right by the big transmitter mast. The one that's identical to the one sticking out the side of his building called Orpheus."
Transmitter? Asked Robin.
"Indeed,"
said Archulus.
"It's where those adverts would have been broadcast from that they were making when we got locked up and stole the shuttle. It makes sense they were broadcasting from there, given how central Decreeta is to the rest of the universe. And that it would connect with the ones here, like a giant grown-up version of the walkie-talkies we were using."
This is dreadful, howled Lando. All this time I've tried so hard to keep everyone safe, only to be the one to get us all captured and killed. I'm truly sorry, all of you. Oh, you must hate me. Fair, said Robin, hopping a chair over to put a comforting hand on Lando's shoulder for a change. It's the adults who are to blame, really, not you. They're the ones trying to kill us. You only did what you thought was right. We can't blame you for that. I'm too trusting, wailed Lando. It's always been my downfall.
Maybe,
said Elfrida.
But without your trust and we were all strangers to each other, we might never have got talking with each other and made such good friends. At least we have that. No adult can ever take that away from us.
Exactly,
said Bettina.
You heard what Mr. C said. We nearly ruined their plans precisely because we became so close to one another and they weren't expecting us to. Well, I say, well done us. We nearly took a lot of them down. All of them adults, some of them heads of state. And us, 11 children.
10 children,
said Hermione sadly.
It turns out Margalo wasn't one of us after all.
Yes,
said Bettina bitterly.
I still can't believe it. We've risked everything to save her scrawny antler-filled neck when her own mother was trying to kill us. I wish we'd never bothered now.
Is there any way you can take out the bomb without it going off, Archulus? Asked Robin. You can do anything.
"I don't think so,"
said the Mekkion sadly.
"Even if my hands weren't tied, there isn't an easy way to defuse it. Rather than work out how to take out the bomb, though, there may be a way to get the rest of you away, so none of you will be near it when it goes off."
"Not a chance, Rover boy,"
said Elfrida.
"No way I'm leaving you."
The rest of us murmured in agreement.
We all go together,
said Bettina.
Or not at all.
Not at all, please,
said Hermione.
If, we get a choice and all.
I was sat nearest to the door and had the most confusing sensation on my non-writing arm, as if something wet and warm, very wet and very, very warm, was dropping on it from above. I tried to shake the feeling off while I concentrated on what everyone was saying. Everyone was talking at once. I can't believe I let you down, Lando was saying again. Well, the Margalo did too. The hardest part of becoming older and turning into an adult is learning who to trust. I still can't work it out,
I can't believe we never got our victory.
said Bettina.
After everything we went through, I never had a moment's doubt that we would win. I don't like growing older. I keep finding out I'm wrong about so many things.
I can't believe I got my faith back for nothing.
Sighed Elfrida, staring out at the completely darkened sky.
The worst part of growing up is realising that there is no one out there to save us, that we have to do it ourselves.
I can't believe it ends here, said Robin. But all those experiences I had, all those lessons I learned, were all for nothing. There is no one to pass them on to. That must be what growing up is too.
I can't believe I let them attack us,
said Squash.
How I'd like to bash them all right now for killing us. Biff, bang, wallop! Growing up is having to face up to the fact that you never even got to enter battles you so badly wanted to win.
I can't believe we got this far,
said Archelaus.
The odds were totally stacked against us from the first, you know. In fact, I guess that's what being grown up is too, acknowledging that fact and acquiescing to it.
I can't understand why I was so scared of my life.
Squeaked Jake.
When time is so precious and short, what a waste. I would live differently if I could go back and do it all over again. I wouldn't be afraid of anything. Being grown up is to realise that there are enough real things to be afraid of without making things up to scare and worry you.
I can't believe I never got to taste all the delicacies from all the planets around the universe before I died.
Said XXXX.
I wonder what beans on toast actually tastes like. Growing up is realising you're never going to experience all the things you wanted to.
I can believe everything.
Said Hermione, rolling her eyes.
But just for a moment there, I learned not to be quite so cynical. It felt good, as if growing up wasn't going to be quite so bad once I found faith in someone. You know.
As for me, I couldn't believe that even though I was trying to concentrate so hard on writing with all four limbs, I was still being distracted by something warm and wet nudging me. Also that I wasted so much time concentrating on what everyone else was doing, when I had so many opinions of my own bursting inside me, trying to get out. Wait, something warm and wet? Writing? With all four hands? But I was tied up just a moment ago. I'm free! I yelled in such a loud voice that everyone turned round to look at me.
Well, happy birthday,
said Hermione sarcastically.
Wake me up when you're 4. Maybe the bomb will light your birthday candles for you when it goes off. All the time to get your voice back, Camalosian.
No, I said, turning round and gathering up Blotchy in my arms. My hands are free! Blotchy, you came to save us! I danced my way around the room, chattering 19 to the dozen about all the things I wanted to say for so long, how scared I'd been, how worried I'd been for everyone else, how everything was going to be all right now, as I untied everyone in turn. Blotchy, help, friends, said the Argibraph, panting hard as if he'd walked a long way.
I don't understand,
said Archelaus as I untied his arms.
The door is locked. I checked it myself with my feet. Fact.
Blotchy wasn't even with us in the building,
said Bettina.
I would have heard him barking anywhere. Best is of a business, me. I figured he'd run off in all the confusion, was lost on the planet's surface somewhere, was pleased that he was safe at least. How would he get into the building?
She turned to see him.
Well, anyway, well done, boy. Just wait till I get all my arms free and I can pack you properly.
You clever, clever Argibraph, laughed Robin, stretching her arms out to him painfully after their long time of being tied. Wait, he's hot.
This is an odd time to find a pet Algibraph sexy,
said Hermione.
Do those famous human hormones just kick in?
No, stupid, said Robin. I mean, he's ultra hot, physically, to the touch. He's almost too hot to touch. I've never known him like this before. And he's wet, said Lando, feeling him over.
He smells like a Glabdiharbit pastry that's been left in a hot oven,
said XXXX approvingly.
Warm and moist and furry.
Remind me never to eat on Glabdiharbit,
said Hermione, untying Jake. Finally we were all free and embracing each other, Elfrida making a beeline straight to Archelaus and peering into his tummy. Straight away Robin was over to the door. Yes, she said, the keys are in the door. Result! Does anyone have a book they can spare so I can try my trick with a log?
Look around you, old mastermind,
cackled Hermione.
First rule of bandit school, don't lock Penguin up in a classroom full of books. Good job we all did our homework, well, nearly all of us.
Robin picked up the nearest jotter, which happened to be Bettina's.
Hey, careful of that, Penguin,
yelled the Belobrat.
I was very proud of my homework. It's going to make me a star when it's published.
Robin jiggled and jostled. The key fell out the lock. She managed to open the door, and we all squeezed through, congratulating her, while rushing through past the hall, which had been frozen into the shape of our bedroom. As Robin tried the same thing in the door that separated the great hall from the outside, we looked around us.
Hey,
Said Elfrida.
the ventilation shaft's open again. That must have been how Blotchy got in past the locked door. It was shut when we left all those days ago, wasn't it? Someone must have opened it.
Look at this, said Lando. Someone has left the supernova tap running. No wonder Blotchy was so hot. It's a wonder his fur hasn't come off. I told to rescue you, barked Blotchy. Climb through shaft, edge, tap with my nose, then squeeze under door.
Who, boy?
Asked Bettina.
Who told you to do all this?
Margalo,
Margalo?
said Hermione.
But she betrayed us, didn't she?
Maybe she didn't, said Lando. Maybe sometimes trust does come right after all.
Never mind all that.
Said Elfrida, glancing at Archers, and the bomb still inside his chest and ticking loudly.
Penguin, can you get us out?
Yes, said Robin proudly, as the door swung open.
I'll never be rude about your coordination again. It saved us so many times, Robin. Well done.
Grinned Bettina. I watched my classmate glow with pride. Not many people ever lived long enough to be praised by Belobrat. We all rushed outside, only to find, to our huge frustration, that there really was no escape. The shuttle that had brought us had gone, and there were no others anywhere. Even though we had been expecting it, our enemies were hardly going to leave us an escape route, even if they had assumed we were going to be trapped inside until the bomb went off. We were still shocked. Most of us gasped. Some of us cried. Squash swore loudly. Ever practical, the Belobrat was the first to speak.
What range does that bomb cover?
Asked Bettina.
Can we outpace it by running to the other side of Orpheus?
Not a chance.
Said Elfrida sadly.
It's a very big bomb on a very small planet. The whole thing would be destroyed. If that thing goes off, Orpheus really will be the underworld. That and a bunch of rocks spinning through space as another asteroid belt.
Oh,
Sighed Bettina, her optimism draining.
it was always a long shot, I suppose. At least we'll get to die outside rather than ensconced in some classroom. At least we'll get to see the stars when we go.
While seeing stars.
Punned Hermione sarcastically.
Great.
At least we can say goodbye properly, said Lando, reaching his arms out for another hug. We put our hooves, wings, flippers, arms, claws and paws out, but there was a gap where our hugs usually were. In fact, two. Margalo didn't take up all this room, did she? Asked Lando.
Wait a minute,
Said Bettina.
where's Archulus?
Oh no,
Said Elfrida, taking off and flying into the air.
I bet he's run away so he can blow up on his own. He probably thinks he can save us all, but he can't, and he shouldn't die alone. I have to find him.
He hadn't gone far. He was hiding out in the nearby forest, panting because the heavy bomb made running such hard work.
What are you doing, you stupid Mekkion?
Asked Elfrida as she caught up with him.
Being grown up and making sacrifices.
Panted Archulus sulkily.
I know you all want to be with me, but only I have to die.
He looked up at Elfrida.
Remember me when you're old and grey and oil circuits turn to rust. We had some good times, didn't we?
It's no good, Archie.
Said the Mrasianart.
The blast will be big enough to kill us all, no matter how far you run, you know. We may as well die together, comforting each other. That's grown up too.
No,
Said the Mekkion violently.
I've got to save you. I must. Especially you.
He said falteringly.
I love you.
Oh, Archulus, I never thought you'd actually say it, or that you'd say it first. I love you too.
Sniffed Elfrida, flying to him, landing in his arms, and kissing him passionately. "Oh," said Robin, beaming as she was next on the scene. "Look at them, all grown up. Now that looks like something actually worth losing your childhood for, that does." Then it happened. Archulus's emotional fuse blew suddenly, triggering the bomb inside of the Mekkion's chest with a huge flash of light that blew Elfrida backwards. In the same instant it was triggered, though, Archulus turned himself off.
No,
Said Elfrida, flinging herself at him.
I'm not having the only person I ever loved short-circuiting on me.
Delivering the branch-filled black holes,
said Bettina, running up to us.
What happened?
He turned himself off,
said Elfrida.
Oh, great,
Said Hermione.
You mean all this time he could have just turned himself off and switched the bomb off? But he didn't think of that. I thought Archelaus was supposed to be small.
No,
said Elfrida, distraught.
you don't understand. It was the fuse in his emotional circuits again. He didn't turn himself off consciously. His body did it, by being overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed by what?
Asked Jake, who had just run up to join us.
My kiss.
Said Elfrida, embarrassed.
I was so caught up in the moment, I forgot that Archelaus can't handle intense emotions, or apparently kisses. He makes their insides go all rusty and blows out their emotional circuitry, the same way he always does with his emotional fuses blow out. But this one is bigger and more permanent. His body must have shut down to save itself.
Oh, yuck,
Said Hermione.
Remind me never to let you kiss me. That's the effect you have on people, Elfrida.
And that's terrific, said a panting Lando, bringing up the rear. That means he's still alive, just unconscious.
No,
Said Elfrida with a shake of her head.
this means he can't ever wake up again. If he does, then the bomb will just go off the way it was already starting to. He would only have nanoseconds to get it to safety. He would have to be an Olympic athlete to avoid the blast. At least when the bomb hadn't gone off, we still had a chance. But what chance have we now?
Can we get the bomb out of him? Asked Robin.
No,
Said Elfrida.
at least I don't think so. Only one person will be able to tell us for sure, and Archie's not going to be telling us anything ever again.
Her shoulders drooped.
I guess my definition of growing up is realising that I have to say goodbye to someone that I love.
Not yet, we don't, said Lando. How many times have we assumed we've been beaten so far? But there is always a chance, always.
I think Archelaus gave us our only chance.
Sniffed Elfrida. Lando put his arms around her sadly.
Some chance.
Said Hermione bitterly.
Archelaus saved us from a quick death, but not a slow one. Nobody knows we're here. No shuttles are ever going to go past this backward planet. We're stranded, with nothing to eat.
For this XXXX whimpered.
If anyone ever does come along, it will be our lifeless bodies they'll find. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but let's face it, with or without Archelaus, we're all as good as dead.
We stared at her, all our joy drained from our faces. She was right,
Will come looking for us.
said XXXX.
I know she will. Sure as chocolate eggs are chocolate eggs.
But doesn't know where we are, said Lando kindly. We never got to tell her where Orpheus was, and she would have no idea to look for us here. Margaret was the only one who would know the coordinates, and she's not here. Even if she was, I suspect she wouldn't be able to remember the exact address.
The Glabdiharbit president, then.
Asked XXXX.
Sorry,
Said Bettina.
I don't think he's the sort to run a mercy mission for a bunch of kids who are getting in his way. The cavalry.
Asked XXXX hopefully.
This isn't the movies.
Laughed Hermione.
Forget about us. No one's coming.
XXXX's face crumpled, like a souffle when an oven door is opened. Lando put his arms around him. And this is my definition of growing up, said Robin sadly, feeling helpless in the face of overwhelming odds again, just as you were beginning to feel helpful.
Come on!
Squeaked Jake.
Don't be scared. Face death with courage.
But how could we? We were still trapped, lost, alone, abandoned, 10 small children lost on a rock floating in space, a bomb half detonated in our faces. Nobody knew where we were. No adults were coming to rescue us.
I was saving this
XXXX said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out some chocolate.
for a special occasion. I guess now is as good as any, given that it might be our last occasion. We ought to ration it,
said Bettina pragmatically.
What else have you got, XXXX? We could go back and check if the food replicator machines are working too. I'm willing to bet those ruffians didn't bother to turn them back on somehow. Russian?
Said XXXX horrified.
And this is my vision of becoming grown up too. Self-discipline, having to make the only thing in the universe that ever kept me going last as long as possible.
I'm sorry, said Robin, hugging him. You keep my chocolate piece. I don't want to outlive anyone. I've lost too many good people already. Lando put his arms around her. Oh, this is awful, he said. And my definition of becoming grown up, not being able to save everyone.
I'll say,
said Elfrida, turning her back on the sky.
Just as I was beginning to think my kind was right, and I was wrong, that there was some force in the universe that would always help us at a time of great need. This is my definition of being grown up too, having to accept not that I might be wrong, but that my worst fears turn out to be right, after all.
We huddled together again. Though we knew help wasn't coming, we all looked up to the horizon, longing for someone, something to save us. But we knew that nothing was going to. We were alone. Well, us and all the small furry creatures that seemed to be living out on the edge of the planet, and who all seemed to be tinted blue now. Blotchy ran around at them, barking madly, and in the back of my head I thought how strange that was, but I didn't really notice. I was too busy worrying about Archulus. Then we heard a ringing sound. It was very much in the distance, somewhere unidentifiable.
Saved by the bell,
said Hermione. Margola's phone, said Lando.
That's just the sign I was asking for in my head just now, a mysterious sign from the heavens to show me I'm forgotten,
said Elfrida, starting to look just a little hopeful again.
I'll say, said
Bettina.
If it's ringing out there, there must be a signal. We can call and get help. But where is it?
Please keep ringing so we can find you, said Robin. Said XXXX to himself.
I could just do with a ring donut right now.
We all looked around us, trying to track the phone down.
Right,
said Elfrida.
Let's try to be logical about this, or I'll channel what Archulus would say.
She did a fair impression of the Mekkion's voice.
Colin, you have the best ears of anyone I know. Fact, everyone quiet, and let him see if he can pick it out.
I felt very nervous as all 11 pairs of eyes turned on me, but I trained my ears and strained my body to listen, closing my eyes to better pin the location down, more with every sound, as my classmates all held their breath. Ahead of us. Above us. Slightly to the right of us. It stopped. I opened my eyes while everyone paused, waiting to see what I had to say. It's on the roof, I said, specifically somewhere near the chimney where the ventilation shaft entrance lies. What's it doing up there? Asked Robin.
It can't be,
said Bettina.
How did it even get up there? You clog-poled circumpolar Camalosian, your ears need syringing.
It is, I said quietly, unusually sure of myself. Listening was my thing after all. I promise. Look up there and you'll find it.
I'm not going on a wild Argibrath chase clambering on top of a roof,
said Bettina.
I mean, if I wanted to die, I might as well wait out here rather than break my neck.
Robin stood next to me. I've never known Colin to be wrong, she said. It's worth the risk.
Fine, said
Bettina, her arms folded.
He's lying then.
Camalosians can't lie, said Lando, standing next to me too.
Great,
said Bettina.
Then he's delusional.
Logic would dictate that our Camalosian friend has all his faculties intact,
said Elfrida, still doing her Archulus impression.
Mrasianart intuition would agree.
To our surprise, it was Jake who marched ahead.
Oh, come on, then!
He said, squeaking.
Don't tell me you lot are afraid of something as daft as heights!
He rolled himself up into a ball, leapt up the drainpipe, and in no time at all was up on the roof. We were all left open-mouthed. But I thought you'd be scared, Jake, said Lando. I was all ready to comfort you that we would climb up without you.
Nonsense,
said Jake.
Glabdiharbit is a perfect balance. I'm only scared of the things you ought to be scared of. And my teachers, and things with teeth, and the dark, and the light, and being alone, and I could just frighten myself again. Would you not mind coming up after me, after all, please? Quickly!
He squeaked.
I'm on our way.
Said Hermione, flying up to the roof.
Any sign of the phone yet, Jake?
I can't see it.
He squeaked.
What I really need is for it to ring again. Where's Bettina? She'll know what to do and where to go.
All right, Lee.
Said Bettina, turning white.
All right. I think I just lost my head. The head.
Jake stuck his head round from the top of the roof.
Bettina's scared? After all the things you said to me the past few weeks? Ha ha ha!
Jake began to do a little dance along the roof.
Scaredy brat, scaredy brat, scaredy brat, scaredy brat.
Bettina now turned red.
I can't help being afraid.
She started,
That's what I've been trying to tell you all this time.
said Jake.
Now are you coming up or not?
Not.
Said Bettina, defeated, looking at his shoes. What can you see? Asked Lando, neatly changing the subject. Are there any nooks or crannies the foe might have fallen into?
Maybe.
He squeaked.
Well, yes. There's an entire hidden passage here we didn't know about. It's got our own homework books piled up in it. And snacks. And a resident.
What?
Said Bettina.
Don't say you've gone potty too.
Do be careful, said Lando.
Should I not go any further?
Squeaked Jake, his bravery failing him.
Yes, please go on.
Said Elfrida, the Mekkion still in her arms.
Maybe whoever it is can help Archie with.
But I'm scared.
Squeaked Jake.
Whatever you be.
And we'll make sure they leave you a good review on International Colour in the Yelp.
Said Hermione from the roof.
Get in there, Jake, you fraud. You've just been jumping on the side of the roof and giving me heart failure. You're way more brave than you give yourself credit for.
That was easy.
Squeaked Jake.
I wasn't scared of that. Everyone has their own limitations of courage.
Please,
Called Elfrida.
go.
Jake gulped, shut his eyes, and ran inside.
Margot.
He squeaked. What? Said 11 mouths at once, Bettina's 3 included.
Can't be.
Said Bettina.
Margot's with his tyrannical teachers. She betrayed us.
A pair of antlers stuck their way out of a hole in the roof, and a quieter voice than we were used to asked.
Is that you? The plan worked then. Oh, good.
Then a louder Maggrumphy voice we were more used to.
You took your time, didn't you? What on earth is he doing down there? Get him the heck out of here!
Well, I like that, your plan.
Said Bettina.
If by your plan you mean betraying us all to your parents and a fellow ruffian so they can poison the rest of the universe, then yes, your plan worked just fine and dandy.
No!
Said Margot.
My plan to get you out. I only pretended to betray you so that I could get past the door and send Lodge back to rescue you. I realised he was still somewhere around the shuttle, and if I got back there in time, I could rush back to my bolt hole up here, where no one else could find me, and then set him free down the ventilation shaft. It's too big for me to climb through. I thought if I let Brotchen think I was about to take him for a shower and told him what to do, he would run to the bathroom first and make himself hot and clever again. He really is very smart, this large brother, when it's the right temperature.
Blotchy barked his agreement from the ground. You mean you risked yourself to save us? Asked Lando.
Of course, you dummy,
Said Margot.
you're my classmates, the only friends I've ever had. I thought you'd seen me twisting my hands when I agreed to go with them.
I think I owe you an apology.
Said Bettina, shifting her feet uncomfortably.
Do come down so I can say it to you. I'll bring Jake with you. I think I owe him one too.
Oh, Bettina,
Said Margot.
this I have to see. Only I can't. I won't be able to see anything except what's in front of me for some time, I'm afraid. Never mind come down there to you.
Why? Asked Robin.
Because I'm stuck.
Said Margot.
Part of the roof caved in on me when something that sounded like a bomb went off. I thought it was Archers at first, but when I heard your voices, I realised we were all still here, so it must have been something else.
No, it was the bomb.
Said Elfrida sadly.
He was caught right at the instant of the explosion. He saved us, but I don't think there's any way we can save him.
Nonsense, huffed Margot.
We're class 5C, and we can do anything. Now start by getting me out of here. Oh great, just my luck.
Said Hermione as she tried to land on the roof.
There's a blasted railing in the way, some anti-space pigeon device or something. Oh yeah,
Said Margot.
a battle pad. I thought it might be helpful to keep you and Elfrida out of my hidey hole early on, so I can get some privacy in case you decide to follow me, and I'm asked not to have a right to. Sorry about that. I really regret building a wall between us now. Well,
Sighed the Habridat.
I can't get to you from here, sorry. And Jake's too tiny to do much on his own. What we need is the combined weight of everyone.
What would Archie do?
Asked Elfrida.
I know, a pull rope and pulley system. That way we can use your weight and bulk, especially Lando's next XXXXX's.
Charming, said the Clandusprod.
Okay.
Said the Doosbury.
I'll pull you out.
We all looked at Bettina.
Don't look at me for permission.
She said.
I think it's a great plan. Let's do it.
We were a hub of activity, as every plank after raiding after box we'd raided from the caretaker's office was piled high on top of each other, with a ladder perched on top. I also climbed my way back through the ventilation shaft to pick up the rope that had been used to tie us together, after which Elfrida and I tied knots in it to keep it together. Better not ask me to tie it, laughed Robin. You've seen what happens with my shoelaces. Finally we had what looked like a climbable mountain of objects that reached as high as the roof, where Margot was trapped, Jake squeaking instructions to make sure we got the distance and direction right, and Hermione taking several flights up to check that everything was where it should be. Finally it was ready. The only problem was who was going to go up on it. They had to be small enough to climb on top of the pile without upsetting it, nimble enough to climb over the railing, and strong enough to haul the rope up with them. At first I tried going up, but my tail was too large to get over the railing. Then Elfrida tried, but she was too feeble to carry the rope as well. Squash only got as far as the bottom rung before his sharp, aggressive footsteps made the pile wobble violently. Bettina tried to climb up, looking very jittery, but froze, and gave up a mere few inches off the ground.
I'm sorry,
She said.
I tried. Jake is braver than me. I can't match that. He's the bravest coward I ever met.
Then I'll try, said Robin.
Yeah, right.
Said Hermione. No, dear, said Lando kindly. You're not too steady on your feet when the land's level. You'll break your neck trying to climb something this rickety. No, I won't, said Robin quickly and defensively. I'm the right height, the right weight, and I'm nimble. I can do this. Bettina scoffed.
Penguin, if I can't do it, you certainly can't. You're hopeless at sports, remember? I'm balanced. You nearly broke your neck running a bicycle with stabilisers.
Robin was defiant. That's exactly why it should be me. All my life I've spent finding ways to compensate for my dyspraxia, of working out how to cover up the things I couldn't do. I know exactly how to go slow and steady so as not to lose my footing, to reset my balance after every step. After all, it's what I do every day on the ground anyway, and this is no harder for me. All I have to do is apply those old skills to this new situation, like a grown-up should. My whole life this thing has held me down, but now I'm going to show you that it's really my superpower. So saying, Robin began to clamber away over the first part of the mountain. Hermione flew overhead with the rope we'd sewed together in a beak, dropping it neatly over Robin's head, while the other half was tied around XXXX's middle. Robin, no, said Lando. You'll hurt yourself.
You don't have to prove anything to us,
said Bettina.
I chicken out too. Come back. I can't look,
said Hermione, landing on the ground again and theatrically covering her eyes.
I'm scared for you,
squeaked Jake. I realised that I was the only one still looking, as Robin took painful step after painful step, rewriting her balance after every one, waving her arms like a whirling dervish, but still staying majestically upright. No, I said out loud as she reached halfway. I think my best friend is going to do it. Go, Robin! Yes, the class cried. Go, Robin! You can do it, Robin! Not bad for a one-big penguin, Robin! Slowly, painfully, Robin made her way up to the top, and then onto the roof, and over the barrier, panting with effort, and pausing after every painful step, but very much in one piece.
Well done, Robin,
Hermione said, flying up to her.
I always believed in you. Never a moment's doubt. No, no, no.
We watched as Robin made her way over to Margalo's hidey hole, climbing over the wall, where she was greeted with much squeaking from Jake.
Well done, Robin,
He said, his big eyes looking up at her.
you're the bravest of the brave.
What about you, said Robin. You were so brave too. They hugged.
Ahem,
Said Margalo.
not that I want to interrupt your hug or anything, but the rope's in danger over here. You won't fit in here, Robin. I'll have to drop the rope over me.
Okay, cool, replied Robin, taking it off her head. Dropping things is what I do best. It's another of my dyspraxic superpowers. So saying, she dropped the rope perfectly round Margalo's middle and pulled tight. I wish every target was this big. It's the fine skilled activities I'm no good at. Right, everybody heave, Robin called to Hermione, who took the rope in her beak and floated back down with the human's message. Bettina tied the end to XXXX, and everyone began pulling on the rope, while the Doosbury Giant laughed.
Tickles.
He said.
It feels like trying to open a particularly difficult jar.
Finally, Margalo popped out of a hole like a cork. Robin and Jake just catching her in time before she went over the edge of the roof.
Phew, thank you for saving me,
said Margalo. My pleasure. Thank you for saving me, said Robin. You too, Jake. All three hugged at last, and the part of the roof they were standing on finally gave way.
I've got you.
Said Squash as Jake bounced off the roof and towards the ground, landing neatly on top of the Agrosian's tummy as he fell to the floor. Margalo and Robin were now dangling off the side of the roof.
Get me off this building, you better aliens!
Scoffed Margalo, all pretense of nicety's gone.
Quick,
Said Bettina, heaving herself up onto the pile of rubble and trying not to look down while she manoeuvred the ladder into place with the help of the rest of us. Finally, first Robin, then Margalo managed to find their footing and climb their way down. Interestingly, Robin seemed to have more trouble with the rigid rungs of a ladder than she had climbing away over the rubble, occasionally missing them with her feet and having to grab on extra hard with her hands. Finally, though, they were both on the ground and safe again.
And there were lemons,
smiled Margalo as she embraced everyone, particularly Blotchy.
and you would work, boy.
No,
said Elfrida sadly.
we're only up to 10.
She knelt over Archelaus again.
He looks as if he's beginning to turn rusty. It's the oxygen in the air. He's not been awake enough to run enough battery fluid through his body to dispose of it, and it's all congealing near his feet. Quick, we have to do something.
But what were we to do? It was Lando who spoke up. I know I'm the stupidest one here by far, he said. But Margalo, do you still have your phone? She nodded and passed it over. Oh, said the Clandusprod, dismayed. I think it got damaged in the fall. Look. Sure enough, it was a mass of wires, sensors, and electrical parts all splayed in different directions.
Oh, great,
Said Hermione.
just as I was remembering what it was like to be hopeful again.
We had it ringing earlier,
Said Bettina.
so it must have been working recently. Does that mean someone knows where we are and was looking for us?
Well,
Exactly, scoffed Margalo.
There's one of those people from the phone helpline ringing up again to tell us they were depressed and could be chat. I told them I was pretty depressed myself right now, being stuck on the roof and hung up. FF said he might reroute the number to us, but apparently he did.
Can you ring them back? Asked Robin, but the phone made a few pathetic whirring noises. Then stopped altogether,
I wish Archelaus was here.
said Elfrida, still cradling the Mekkion.
He'd have known how to fix it.
She looked up to the skies.
Please, if you're up there, the good Mekkion is dying, and we might follow. Show us a sign. Any sign. Flash your light again like you did in the shuttle. Please. I know I haven't always been a believer, but I believe in you now. You have always brought friends to my rescue, and me to theirs. As I began to believe in them, so I began to believe in myself, and believe in you. That can't all have been for nothing. Please send us a light, a sign, or something. Please.
The sky remained dark, though. There weren't even any stars out tonight. We were on our own. Again,
Yeah, right.
said Hermione, more gently than usual.
As if that's going to happen.
Suffering sublimate spectroheliographs. Did nothing go right for us?
Said Bettina crossly, throwing the phone down to the ground in disgust. As it bounced, it made a crackling noise. And a sudden blue light flashed out, shining on the patch of grass where Elfrida and Archelaus were lying. What's all this? Asked Robin, needlessly as it turned out, as a robotic voice in tone.
Preparing for interstellar broadcasting in 3, 2, 1, go!
The blue light flicked red. There was a pause. Bob's voice crackled on.
This is the BC News. We interrupt the closing ceremony of the Intergalactic Olympic Games to, finally, bring you the international link-up news flash that we were paid for. We were waiting for. Yes, it's Blue Seed Day. Forget red weed. We have the newest product on the market, which does everything the old one did, plus it's blue. Later in the show, we'll be meeting up with Habridat in the sports department, discussing how it can make you go faster, or be totally legal because it's passed from your system by the time you take the Olympic doping test. Claudine Camalosian in the weather department will be discussing how Blue Sea can get rid of rain so that you only have bright sunny weather, and what to do about the cracks in the planet this causes when the blue seed disappears into the surface. M&X will be showing you how to cook with blue seed in every dish without being sick. And Mrasianart's current affairs programme looks in more detail at the children on the packaging and all the problems and illnesses blue seed has cured. Not forgetting our tie-in extravaganza with the curse of Sycamore Planet, where its red lava is now coloured blue.
But none of that's true, said Robin bitterly, and more to herself than anything. Keep watching, we'll show you what's really going on.
Wait, what did you say?
Interrupted Bob.
Pardon?
Said Bettina, peering at the device, and seeing a three-headed image arrive in the corner of the screen momentarily afterwards.
I'm on TV. Hey, I always knew I would be one day. I bet I'm brilliant at this. It's one of the children from the Blue Seed advertising firm now.
Carried on Bob.
Just as we were promised, if a little bit late. But a little, ha ha. Well, time is money. We're broadcasting live to every channel. So tell us, little girl, how wonderful is Blue Seed? Less of a little, or the girl, please,
said Bettina crossly.
I'm practically an adult woman. Oh, wait till you hear our story.
She hissed more quietly to the others.
What's going on? Why are we on television? We couldn't even get a phone signal a few moments ago. We seem to be having a few technical problems here, folks,
said Bob.
So before we return to the broadcast, a word from our new sponsor, Blue Seed.
The blue light turned green, seemingly on pause.
Oh,
said Margalo.
it's for the broadcast of Blue Seed. I let Mr. C put it on my phone to show them I was working for them, and the plan was that whichever of you came with me would broadcast with me on board their shuttle during the middle of the Intergalactic Olympics closing ceremony by talking about Blue Seed, where most of the universe would be watching. But really, I was working for you and took my phone with me.
How come it works and the phone part doesn't? Asked Robin. Margalo shrugged.
Different technology, I think. The phone part is interstitial and needs to link to a satellite. The broadcast is sort of wireless. I think Mr. C said Blue Seed was like Bluetooth. We only need to connect to another machine for it to broadcast. That part must be working.
The big satellite dish on the side of the school, perhaps,
said Elfrida.
Linked to the one Archula spotted on Decreeta. I think those two so-called teachers were planning to double-cross their so-called business partners long before we turned up.
That's right,
agreed Margalo.
From as long as I remember Mum mentioning Redweed, that linker was part of their plan. And I was never a model,
she said quickly.
The only way they would let you leave on the trip was if I was with you. But I couldn't wait to break my ties with them. Really, I was spying on them for you.
Yeah,
said Hermione, nodding.
right. Actually, I do believe that, Margalo.
You should have heard when we couldn't find me and they were on the way to the shuttle. They were far too busy plotting to see me scoop a blotchy and run up to my hole with him,
giggled Margalo.
Mum was actually upset, poor thing. But Mr. C was adamant. They couldn't risk looking round for me in case the bomb went off. Even so, I thought they'd never leave so I could send blotchy through to rescue you.
Quick thinking,
said Bettina, impressed.
That was a plan even a Belobrat would have been proud to come up with.
Just wait till I get my hands on them all,
said Squash, hopping from one foot to another.
Bash, smash, crash,
So how does it work?
Gasped Bettina, still peering into the device and admiring her reflection on the screen.
It's technology stolen from the Mekkion Mum we were working with,
said Margalo.
It can overload any screen anywhere we choose from any planet we have any right to be on. Right being defined by close species ties or somewhere we've been. With the press of the button, we can just tell it what screen we want to broadcast to. The coordinates to BCUs are already set in, so we should be able to override it. That will give everyone watching the Intergalactic Olympics closing ceremony a shock.
The light on the phone turned blue again, and there was a whir. And the same voice intoning,
3, 2, 1, broadcasting live.
Everyone cross your tails and hope this works,
said Bettina. Her confidence newly returned.
Each of you look at this screen and give your official planet of origin after me. Broadcasting on Helisphere.
She handed the phone round us all.
Habridat,
said Hermione. Squeaked Jake. Earth, said Robin.
Maggrumph,
said Margalo. Cigarettes free, said Lando.
Agrosian,
said Squash.
Gooses,
said XXXX.
here's cake.
He added.
Camalosian,
I said, surprising myself at the sound of my voice. The phone was passed to Elfrida.
Right.
She said, and she propped up Archulus's head up.
And Mekkion 6.
She handed the phone back to Bettina.
Let's see.
The Belobrat continued.
If you scan me, you should find that I've also recently been on governmental headquarters Decreeta, the hospital planet Medicus, on ice planet Phrygius, not that there's likely to be anyone there. Oh, and we're here on Orpheus. That's everywhere, I think. Basically every inhabited planet, barring Ensconce, the shopping planet,
she said, looking around her.
Hello,
said Bettina, sticking her head onto the screen again.
Is this thing on? You're probably anticipating a brief advert right now for a new product called Blue Seed. You might recognise this as for children from other adverts you've seen for Redweed. Well, don't buy either of them. They're dangerous, toxic and damaging to both your health and that of the planet.
Bettina moved the phone so everyone was in view.
We're Class 5C, and the makers of these products have experimented on us. Makers take these awful products, incarcerated us, tried to recapture us when we fled, and tried to blow us up to Kingdom Come with a bomb planted in my Mekkion friend Archulus.
She turned the camera on him, still lying unconscious in Elfrida's lap.
It was only through the brilliance of my classmates that we have been able to survive to bring you this story, and what a story it is. I'm going to put someone very special on to tell it to you, but first let me put out a plea for help. We are stranded on the planet we know as Orpheus, and other people call Orpheus, only we don't know where it is. The only person who did is old Mekkion, and he's currently lying on the ground with a bomb half exploded in his chest. Please try to help us, folk. We're stranded here. If we ever helped you, through our phone line, or you saw us on the foosball pitch, and you looked up what we were saying about red weed, and wondered if we were right, then please help us now. Send a bomb disposal squad to help Archie, and transport for the rest of us, and keep looking for us in your local solar system. We're next to the only building on a planet dyed with red with weed. Oh, and if you have a bottle of red weed or blue seed you've been given, chuck it out now. It has no medicinal properties whatsoever, and is only a cheap way of making money off gullible people who should know better. Right, here's my friend, Colin.
I gasped. Me? I said. But I'm no good at talking.
Who else can tell our stories?
Said Bettina.
You're the best observer I've ever known. You remember everything, and you'll tell our story fairly and justly, without making yourself look good or anyone else look bad. Plus, with a little bit of help from your notes, you have total recall. Who else could it be?
But all those quadrillions of people, I said, half looking at the camera and shuddering. The Olympic closing ceremony was said to have the biggest audience in history. Do it, Colin, said Robin, cheering. Yes, dear, said Lando. You'll be amazing. I know you will.
We need someone to give us a voice,
said Elfrida.
to tell our side of the story for a change.
Don't be a scaredy cat.
Laughed Jake. So I did. I spoke everything you hold in your hands now, which is basically just a straight transcript of my speech. I told everyone about our loneliness and despair as we were taken from our planet and our families without anyone taking any notice because we were only children, as if mere lack of experience and years beyond our control in some way made us lesser beings, and our governments were glad someone wanted to take us off their hands. I talked about the adults we were placed with who should have been keeping us from harm instead of inflicting it upon us. I talked about the awful things that had been done to us without our knowledge or consent. I talked about how, once we had worked out what was going on, we tried to run away, and no one had listened to us. But most of all, I spoke about my friends and classmates' bravery, as we came to rely less on others and more on ourselves, with 11 strangers from 11 species growing to trust and depend on and risk their lives for each other, because it seemed as if adults of all shapes and sizes seemed to be out to get us. And I spoke about how much danger we were in still, the proven hazards of red weed, our suspicion that blue seed was just the same product recoloured, that each and every one of us was in great danger through negligence and greed, and how even now Archulus lay dying on the floor, a victim of corruption. It was more words than I had ever spoken in my life, all jumbled up together in one impassioned ball of emotion. It was weird hearing all the things that I had been screaming inside my head to an echo chamber of silence out loud at last. I worried about what the others might think of me, whether they might judge me for judging them, or had offered an opinion they didn't agree with, or that I had failed to take into account something I needed to know to tell their story. Instead they just sat cross-legged on the tick-free grass, listening, nodding me onwards, silently approving.
There you are,
Said Bettina as I brought the broadcast up to the present day and was left panting with effort.
I knew you'd understand. They've been observing well. Way to go, Colin.
Fantastic, said Lando, patting me on the back and sending me sprawling halfway across the grass. You see, you always have a lot worth saying. We should listen more often. That was brilliant, said Robin, putting her arms round my neck and hugging me. For the first time in my life, I feel like a valued part of something rather than just a clumsy so-and-so defined by what I can't do.
Not bad,
Said Hermione, rolling her eyes.
you know, for a silent weirdo from Camalosian.
Oh, it's wizard,
Said Margalo.
You turned me into a hero.
Squeaked Jake.
We ought to celebrate.
Said XXXX.
We need cake.
Best school report ever.
Smiled Elfrida.
You captured all our sides, good and bad. All my other ones felt like fiction compared to that, one-dimensional.
So that's what happened to me.
Asked Squash.
I got ill, and you all saved me.
Yes, I said, unable to stop talking now I'd started. We were so worried about you, but we saved you. Well, XXXX did really,
Ice cream.
said XXXX simply.
Pictures or else.
Ice cream?
Said Jake.
No,
Said XXXX.
ice cream. Frozen dairy podges.
Said Jake, quivering, pointing behind us.
Duck,
Said Bettina.
right this second.
We all fell to the ground. Elfrida covering Archulus's lifeless body, with me dropping Margalo's phone, which was still broadcasting everything live. A Wallywurgler, a Belobrat form of interstellar shuttle, had arrived behind us. What Jake's Glabdiharbit's keen eyes, always on alert for trouble, had noticed, though, was the gun on the front pointing straight at us and being wielded by a deranged free headmaster. He sent several shots over our heads, while laughing maniacally, before the Wurgler crashed into the side of a school building, which erupted into flames. To our relief, he hadn't hit any of us, but then it appeared that he hadn't been trying to. Instead, he seemed to have been aiming for the giant satellite dish on the side of the school building, which, already weakened from the effects of the red weed lava, crumpled to the floor. A hole in the building revealed an entire manufacturing plant, which was now in ruins. This also ended our broadcast in an instant, which was presumably the intention, but, like so many adults before him, the free headmaster had only started listening to us partway through, and his actions were too late to stop us doing what we needed to do. After we all checked that we were all right, we headed for the Wurgler, which was on flames, with smoke licking its way up to the sky, and blocking out the sunlight once more.
We can't get any closer,
said Bettina, shielding all three faces as the flames shot up around us.
My homework. Now nobody will ever get to see how special it was.
Don't worry, I say. I scan-read everybody's work when we were at the staff room that time. I could reproduce it all from memory. Never mind about that, snapped Lando. The free headmaster is hurt in there. He'll probably die.
Yeah, well, what do we care?
Said Hermione.
I don't know if you happen to notice, but he was shooting at us. You kind of give up any right to have someone risk their lives for you when they try to kill you.
There was another rumble right beneath our feet as the red weed found its way into the cracks in the building, opening them up and making the school more unstable still. Parts of it fell away, revealing more red weed, some of it now tinted blue, so that it ended up stripy. Look, said Robin, over there. There must be oceans of the stuff. So that's what was in the rest of the school.
They made so much of it,
said Elfrida.
And look, now it's destabilised the ground and it's coming this way.
Poor Jake ran away screaming as he was followed by a particularly large crack in the ground that opened up beneath his paws and seemed to follow him round until Lando scooped him into his arms. The next moment there was a chasm the size of a Doosbury Giant, and even XXXX had trouble helping us across to safety.
We can't stay here,
said Bettina.
But we can't go anywhere else either. We're trapped between a rock and a headmaster. What was he trying to do anyway?
He wasn't shooting at us,
said Elfrida, pointing at the floor.
Look.
Around our feet, paws, claws and hooves, red weed, some of it dyed blue, was rippling and collecting in pools, not so much reflecting the sun's rays as water, or most liquids would, but sucking the life out of them, like a black hole.
He was trying to get rid of the evidence, hoping it would all be destroyed. He must have got something wrong. The fire's just made it all come alive again. I think it was a suicide mission to cover up his role in all this before the end of our broadcast, so that he wouldn't lose his influence on the world's government. Maybe he wasn't used to the bright lights on Orpheus. The sun shone in his eyes at just the right moment. Or the wrong one.
Bettina yelled.
He was trying to destroy everything, including us. We might have still been inside if not for Margalo.
That fiend,
snapped Margalo.
We should kill him by any means.
No, said Robin. We're better than that. Better than him. Better than adults seem to be. We might yet be able to save him. She started clambering over the rubble that we had still left besides the now burning building. If we can just get through to where Margalo's hidey hole is, we might be able to get him out. No, Penguin, said Lando desperately. I'm all for being kind, but it isn't safe or worth it.
Actually,
squeaked Jake.
it might be safer than staying here.
He rolled up into a ball to avoid the red-blue weed that was getting nearer and nearer to us. The fire hasn't reached the side of the roof yet, said Robin from on top of the school. Help me clear some of the debris. We might yet be able to save the free headmaster and ourselves. We can shelter here till help arrives. We all struggled up to the roof of the building, Hermione flying up first, XXXX Lando and Elfrida carrying Archulus's body between them, while Margalo, Jake, Squash and I clambered up ahead, ready to help the others. By the time we made it, Robin was already inside, frantically moving singed wooden paddles out the way. He's in there, she yelled above the fire crackles. Help me! By chance the Wurgler hadn't exploded on impact, but had splintered into pieces. The part carrying its pilot had fallen through the roof and onto the bathroom, where it had neatly collected on top of the giant Doosbury bath. The impact had turned on the tap, which was miraculously somehow still working, and ice had fallen on top of the fire, which had put out the worst of the flames. It was still hazardous, though, so the only way to get through to it was via the caretaker's office, which had been smashed in two. Robin had grabbed a hose that Horace, their caretaker, had used for watering the few plants that were on Orpheus. We hadn't had the heart to tell him they were clearly plastic, and had already climbed through the ventilation shaft to the bathroom, gathering the hose behind her. Once in the bathroom, she dragged the unconscious headmaster out to safety and pulled him behind us, having first secured the hose around the tap. We followed her one by one, making sure the hose was unknotted until we were all in place, and each of us yelled at the classmate behind us to switch on. Bettina, who had been slowest at the rubble due to her vertigo, was at the end and still catching her breath when the hose was thrust into her hands.
Now point!
Yelled Elfrida, who had been in front of her.
Let's keep the flames away as best we can till help gets here.
Right,
Nodded Bettina, holding on for dear life as the hose came to life and started throwing foam at the sides of Margot's hiding place.
What's up?
Said a voice from the caretaker's office.
Did I oversleep for my shift? All my tibotarsal articulation always plays up on me after a nap.
Horace, said Margot, what are you doing still here?
Sleeping.
The Habridat caretaker said.
It was a lovely long nap. It felt as if I'd slept days. Gosh, you like town. Don't tell me you're back from your school trip to Decreeta already.
You mean they left you here? Said Robin.
Oh,
Blinked the caretaker. It's the Clandusprod, Mrs. Maggrumph, the free headmaster, she yelled. The caretaker shrugged.
I guess they forgot to wake me up. Not that I'm complaining. Is it just me? Was it really warm in here? There's nothing like being warm to give you a good nap. It's really good for my wattle and plumage, so it is. Wait, is that the headmaster was dragging with you? I don't even like that, you know.
We're not leaving him here, shouted Robin above the flames. No one else is going to die today.
I'll like it even less when he wakes up in Ensconce,
said Hermione. Come with us, yelled Robin, dragging Horace by the wing and pulling him to safety. Just in time as the ceiling beam came away, demolishing what remained of the great hall, our furniture and decorations now mutually ablaze and fused together, like one giant 11-being hybrid. We stared back at it, momentarily aghast.
I bet school's out now,
said Hermione, ironically.
Never has Sophie done so much learning in the place of mere education,
said Elfrida. Goodbye, school, said Robin. I had so promised myself that things were going to be different. I was actually going to graduate from here this time. Oh well, lives are more important than dreams. We all carried the free headmaster with us, Horace helping us as we guided him over the rubble to Margot's hidey hole.
This is where my supplies have been going,
he said, bewildered, as he admired the antler artwork made from post-it notes and pens.
I think your mum is going to have something to say about this misuse of school property, young Margot.
never mind that now.
Said Bettina, who was back to her bossy self again, having survived the climb upwards.
We have to hope that water supply doesn't run out, so we can keep this part of the school clear till help gets here. Meanwhile, somebody tie the headmaster up as best they can. We don't want him getting us into more trouble.
You have no rope, said Lando, looking round helplessly.
I know what to do.
Said Squash, sitting down hard on top of the free headmaster.
How is Archulus?
Elfrida asked Bettina, who had propped him up on the floor.
I'm no expert on Mekkion technology, but I think a bit of colour has returned to his cheeks.
Said Bettina.
If anything, the fire saved him by burning up the extra oxygen.
Well, said Robin when we were all settled, do you think anyone got our broadcast? Is help on the way?
Knowing our luck, we'll be tagged school arsonists instead of heroes.
Said Hermione.
After all, if most other students dream to burn down their school, why is that just from Habridat?
We might be about to find out.
Squeaked Jake, pointing at the sky again.
Duck everyone till we know it's safe.
Said Bettina.
For all we know, it's more red weed manufacturers out to shoot us.
No, it isn't.
Said XXXX.
I recognise that space helicopter. It's a Pi 4000, the ones the Doosbury athletes use. The blades are knives and forks.
Sure enough, we recognised Wurwa and some of the other faces from the foosball team peering from the edge of a saucer-shaped craft. We popped our heads out of Margalo's hideout and waved as much as we dared. To our relief, Wubba waved back. Even with the combined weight of several Doosbury Giants, though, the space shuttle struggled to cope with the uplift caused by the flames, and the vehicle struggled to get anywhere near us. Despite the dangers, though, Wubba had already lowered herself down on the rope as the vehicle flew closer to us. "An adult," said Robin, "risking my life for children? Well, I never."
Now I've seen everything.
Agreed Bettina, all three jaws dropping.
I always vowed I wouldn't be one of those substitute helicopter parents, but here we are.
Wubba yelled over the flames. "How did you know where to find us?" yelled Robin.
Those school inspectors you travelled with were concerned at your teacher's language after Margalo plays on tricks on Mrs. Maggrumph and put in a question mark over her behaviour on the Universal,
said Wubba.
When a load of aliens you helped on your phone line, and some of those viewers who'd seen your interruption of our foosball match read your report about an odd school on an uninhabited planet that hadn't been officially registered, and set out a plea for help. We were already in space trying to track you down when we got the tip-off about where you might be. Now jump, I'll catch you. I promise.
We all looked at each other, dazed. Every other promise from adults in our lives had gone wrong.
Trust me, come on.
Wubba yelled.
It's your only chance.
But we were all afraid. We had been exhausted by years of not being heard or listened to or understood or betrayed or abandoned. We liked Wubba. Heck, she was like one of the class. But it was a heavy drop to the ground below, and she was only one Doosbury. What could she possibly do to save us all?
Blind faith,
sighed Elfrida,
forcing me to take a leap into the unknown. Do I know what becoming level?
Please,
yelled Wubba.
You saved me once, now I'm saving you. Do it now, before it's too late. I would trust Wubba with my life, maybe even my lunch,
said XXXX, quoting himself from earlier. He turned to us.
Remember her stats in our sticker book?
He said.
Wubba is the best catcher there's ever been. She hasn't missed a thing in 20 years. I trust her with all my heart, on my stomach, and no Doosbury can say more than that. Plus I'm the heaviest. If I can do it, then maybe it will inspire all of you to do it too.
No, said Lando, horrified. There must be a safer way. But XXXX stayed calm and rifled through his pocket for his last piece of chocolate.
You remember how in Doosbury folklore it's unlucky to die on an empty stomach?
He said.
Well, not anymore. For once in my life, I couldn't eat another thing. Goodbye, everyone. Good luck. I hope I see you on the other side.
So saying, he waved at Wubba, who was by now swinging upside down with her feet, counted down from 3 on his fingers, then launched himself off the side of the building. Wubba caught him with one hand, while the other reached out for the ladder, gripping it like a ladle.
Taking candy from a baby,
XXXX called.
Only easier, given what a tight grip Doosbury infants have. See you soon.
With that he scuttled up the ladder to safety.
I'm off,
yelled Horace, and he leapt for Wubba's arms before we had a chance to stop him.
Wow,
said Hermione.
Look at him go. So much for being old and creaky. Look at that skin with his move. Oh,
said Bettina with a grimace.
It's amazing what they can suddenly do when they need to, without a thought for who they leave behind. You next, Jake,
she said, ordering everyone into a queue. Glabdiharbit shut his eyes and, squeaking, launched himself into Wubba's arms before he too was safely bundled on board the spaceship. Hermione followed, then squashed.
What do we do about Ben?
Asked Bettina, pointing to the unconscious bodies of Archibald and the 3 headmaster. Do you have any rope? I yelled to the Doosbury copter.
No,
said Wubba,
but we do have some extra strong Doosbury noodles.
Flinging them into Margalo's hidey hole with some precision. I caught them and handed them out to the others.
Better not let you near the nuts,
said Bettina, apologetically to Robin.
Anyway, you've done more than enough, and probably saved us all. It's your turn to get out of here. You next, Penguin.
Robin looked back at us. I need to know you're all safe before I leave, especially Archibald. I'm the most useless and expendable person here. You are not, said Lando, pushing her towards the edge.
I'm coming with Archie, last,
insisted Elfrida, with such determination Robin knew better than to argue, replying only, if you say so. The human took a running jump and flung herself at the waiting Wubba. Only she tripped over the ledge of the roof on her way past, sailing past Wubba's helpless outstretched arms, I watched her fall as if in slow motion, observing the horrible realisation that something had gone wrong passing over her face in slow motion as she clawed at the air for dear life and found herself falling head first. I saw her eyes meet mine with a look of sheer panic before she closed them again, preparing herself for the end. Then, in an instant, the copter did a violent about-turn and rolled near sideways, so that instead of falling to the ground, Robin fell onto the side cockpit, bouncing harmlessly on top of the pilot, who happened to be Squash.
Good day, miss.
He said, raising an imaginary hat as Robin rolled harmlessly off onto her side. Squash, you saved me, she said, sharply.
We experts all falling have to stay together,
He said.
I know all about trajectories and angles and gravity after my experiences. I just nudged the controls to make sure I caught you.
Thank you, said Robin, putting her arms around him as XXXX, Jake and Hermione grouped around her too.
When you've quite finished up there,
Said Wibblewurst, hanging on with her feet, and her head nearly rubbing alongside the ground as the Doosbury pilot took the controls again and righted the spaceship again. When now the noodle ropes were all ready, we managed to throw the end of the headmasters to Wibblewurst, who caught it expertly. And now the flames were getting nearer.
You next, Colin.
Said Bettina after he was safely over. I looked back round at the 5 remaining figures. One of them was still lifeless.
Go on.
Said Bettina, making sure my notes were all sealed tight in my pocket. I nodded at Wibblewurst, shut my eyes tight, and launched myself into the air, feeling myself whisked upwards by the Doosbury's safe hands and planted on top of the ladder. Quickly I scurried my way up and into Robin's outstretched arms. Turning round, you could see a discussion going on between Margalo, Bettina, Lando and Elfrida over who should be last. I'm not leaving anyone, said Lando. It's my duty to keep you all safe.
I'm the leader.
Said Bettina.
It's my responsibility to go last.
I love him.
Said Elfrida, pointing at Archelaus.
I'm not leaving him.
You're all wrong.
Said Margalo.
You've all got futures. I've got enough to live for. People will just blame me for the betrayal. Who's going to miss me if I'm gone?
So saying, she retreated further towards the flames and refused to budge.
We will, stupid.
Said Bettina. You're a classmate and our friend, said Lando. We've been through a lot together.
Mrasianart style compromise.
Said Bettina.
Let's get Archelaus across first, then we can all go, quickly.
Elfrida looked at her gratefully, then mimed to Wibblewurst that she was going to throw the ropes attached to the Mekkion first.
All right,
Said Margalo.
but me last.
If you don't jump, I will come back and force you to.
Said Bettina.
If need be, I will find your ghost and haunt it. You don't escape our class that easily.
Margalo managed to smile.
All right,
She said stubbornly.
but I'm still going last.
Archelaus was carried across safely. Then Lando jumped, then Elfrida, then Bettina. Margalo prepared to jump. But another rumble from the red weed underfoot caused the whole building to shudder and shake. Margalo lost her footing and fell backwards, lost in the midst of the rubble, as the Orpheus school building finally caved in on itself. The last sight we had of her was a pair of antlers disappearing into the ether. Oh no, said Robin in horror, and he perched on her middle, as we both sat on top of Squash in the middle of a helicopter, staring out the window.
Turn back.
Screamed Bettina, rushing for the door of the spaceship.
Let me back in there.
no,
Said Wibblewurst sadly, climbing up into the cockpit and blocking her way.
it's too late. We can't save her.
I don't lose classmates or friends.
Said Bettina fiercely.
I don't lose at anything. Turn around now.
It's no good, Bettina, said Lando sadly, putting a hand on her shoulder. She's gone.
Damn it.
Spat Bettina back.
Why don't people take orders?
Margalo, called Robin helplessly. Please be alive.
To think we'll never see those antlers leering over us again.
Squeaked Jake sadly. She can't die. I won't allow it. I should have saved her, said Lando distraught, and with his hooves round his head. I should have been me out there. It's my job. That's not your job, said Robin sadly. You're just a kid, you know, the same as the rest of us. Margalo knew what she was doing. She sacrificed herself for us, so let's not waste what time she gave us. Simultaneously, Elfrida, Squash and XXXX were in the back of the spaceship with some of the Doosbury athletes, oblivious to what was going on, trying to get the bomb out of Archelaus' stomach.
It's loud.
Elfrida said, pointing out where the bomb had just started to go off when she had kissed him. Archulus's lips were in fact still puckered from the kiss, his eyes closed, a look of ecstasy on his face.
That's the way I'd want to go.
Said one of the Doosbury athletes.
In love.
He's not going anywhere,
Snapped Elfrida.
We can still save him.
Well,
Said Willower, coming to the back to join him.
I'm no expert, but I would say that this is one of those long fuse bombs. They take a while to go fully off.
That's not much good
Said Elfrida.
when it's already started to erupt.
You know,
Said Willower.
I reckon we'll still have maybe a few nanoseconds before it fully goes off. Plenty of time to get it out of harm's way. My foosball reaction rate is 0.00042 seconds. She's right, you know.
Said XXXX.
I remember the stat from a card.
We were called to a meeting as Willower told the rest of us her plan. Having lost Margalo, no one was quite sure what to think.
Would he last getting to a doctor?
Said Bettina.
How far away is Medicus?
Elfrida shook her head.
He's already too far gone. I don't know if he'll be able to wake up as it is.
How dangerous is it? Asked Robin. If the bomb goes off, well, we're on board.
Catastrophic.
Said Elfrida.
But if we get it away, it is possible. I hope.
She looked out into the sky, just in time to see the sun fall over the spaceship, illuminating Archulus's metal ribcage.
I can't live without him. Subdue it,
Said Elfrida to Willower.
please.
Then it's settled.
Said Bettina.
We try everything. We've already lost one of our classmates today. I'm not losing another, whatever the risk to the rest of us.
She looked at all of us in turn. We all nodded. Even the Doosbury athletes nodded.
Nobody gets left behind on our team,
Murmured one.
even on extended team.
Willower got herself in position, doing all her warm-up routines of pizza throwing and bagel tossing as she got ready by the open copter door, aiming for the remnants of the school. Suddenly, with a violent move, she took hold of Archulus's bomb in one hand and a pair of scissors she usually used for cutting open packets in the other, quickly snipping with one hand and hurling with the other. The bomb erupted harmlessly, halfway between the spaceship and the school. The blast shaking the shuttle so badly we had to hang on. It caused even more damage to the building, blasting the roof off. Underneath it, we saw where Margalo had fallen, her lifeless body perfectly still. But before we could focus, our heads were turned back to Archulus. The instant the bomb had left his system, Elfrida had put his last emotional fuse inside his chest, and he was sitting up and groaning.
Goodness,
He said, his eyes still closed and his lips still puckered.
I always thought the ground moving after a kiss was just an expression.
Archie!
Elfrida yelled, throwing her arms around him and hugging him so tightly one of his ball bearings came off.
That wasn't the crown, silly. That was a bomb going off.
Ah,
Said Archulus, his eyes still shut.
well, all I know is that the ground moved to me. Fact.
Elfrida sniffed.
I'm never letting you go ever again.
Oh, that's nice. I missed something.
Asked Archulus.
I don't wish to alarm anyone, but we seem to be in the air. Or am I still floating from that kiss?
Willower was lowering herself down the ladder again, going back one last time to retrieve Margalo. Is she? Asked Robin, unable to finish her question. But Willower shook her head.
She's still breathing.
And the Doosbury said, hanging upside down once more.
She's one lucky Maggrumph. Her antlers seem to have lodged into the wall to stop her falling. She'll have a mighty headache when she wakes up, I suspect, but nothing worse. I'm going to try and lower the noodle rope round her nearest antler and see if we can pull her out.
Moments later, Margalo was on board, still unconscious, but still breathing, a panting Willower following her to safety.
Everybody lives.
Yelled Elfrida.
For once we're at a major causal nexus point in the history of our 11 civilizations, and nobody had to die to establish it.
We all celebrated, slapping each other on the back, congratulating each other, and cheering in between snatches of asking Willower what had happened after we had been captured on Orpheus.
When I couldn't find you, I began to get panicked.
Said Willower.
So I went to the papers and told them everything about the cop-out conference being the, well, cop-out that you told me it was. They didn't believe me, of course. They said I was just an athlete. An athlete is everything at Olympic week, but nobody wants to know when the events are over. However, the next thing I know, people are getting your broadcast. People didn't know what to make of it at first, and were still too hooked on the red weed. But everything Colin said chimed with what I'd been telling the newspapers, and what you had all been telling everyone during your support line phone calls and the foosball protest you made. Everyone had been talking about you, but weren't sure what to think until Colin gave out so many facts. Hearing a Camalosian talk at such length, people felt it had to be true. We rushed to come and get you, but without the coordinates, we hadn't got a clue where to go till those clever Mrasianarts tracked you down via that Ofstedian report. The universal has been heating up like a giant barbecue. Every second there's someone else saying that they heard your story and wanted to do something about it, but they didn't feel they could act on their own. So many quadzillions saw you talk, though, that now there are so many people who've seen or heard you, the authorities couldn't ignore it any longer and have finally been nagged into doing something. We heard just as we were coming into Orpheus that they had arrested the manufacturers on Potianus and were interrogating Mr. C and Mrs. Maggrumph. Last I heard they were all busy blaming everything on each other and getting into deeper and deeper trouble with the police. Your notes are invaluable, Colin. I know the police will want to read them, as well as watching the broadcast. It's a good job you're such an observant Camalosian on our team.
I blushed.
That's the President J, and all the other Js. The last I heard, there was a mob protesting on the steps of the intergalactic headquarters, seeking to overthrow him. He won't be able to stay in power much longer after what you've discovered. Oh, and a test was carried out on red weed based on the figures Archelaus gave us about the temperature with which it gets heated and how cool it needs to be to become untraceable. It is now officially a banned substance universally. Oh, and they'll have to replay the Olympics again now. So many athletes admitted to taking it. We might actually win next time. Today alone I've got lots of practice throwing and catching. I bet nobody delivers me the curveball that you did though, Robin.
You mean people believe us? Asked Robin in shock. Adults are listening to children? We're really safe now. It felt like an entire black hole that had been sucking away at us the past few days had just been lifted from our collective shoulders.
More than that,
Beamed Wurwa. They're learning from your example.
I don't think we can even call you children anymore either. You've all been so grown up this whole affair. Even when people didn't believe you, you kept on going and you stayed together no matter what, risking everything to save other people. That's what it means to be truly adult, to put someone else's needs before your own. The people in power around you failed to do that, but you did great. All of you. You already know what it means to be grown up and pass more tests than most adults ever do.
Yo, 3 cheers for 5C!
Yelled Bettina. I hope we don't grow up too fast though, Robin said. I still have so much playing I want to do first. And she ran round the spaceship chasing my tail, laughing as we went back to our game of Space Invaders, only this time without any mishaps, and with the whole class joining in, even Margalo groggily once she woke up. We spent the next hour maniacally laughing, joking, eating and swapping stories. XXXX discovered the spaceship had some of the best scones he'd ever tasted. It was, like all the purest moments of childhood spent with people you love and trust, the most beautiful noise in the universe, and a memory to cherish long after the bad moments had disappeared from our memories. A long journey later, and the approach of Decreeta in the window had suddenly sobered us up, as without saying a word, we all stopped being children again. What will happen to us now, do you think? Asked Robin quietly, peering out the window. I was just beginning to feel like Orpheus was home, even with all the awful things going on, and now another home has been destroyed. It was home, said Lando comfortingly. It was us being there together that made it home, whatever the adults were really up to keeping us there.
I guess we'll all be sent back to our respective planets again. No one will be able to afford to rebuild Orpheus, and there'll be a scandal associated with it now always,
mused Archelaus, practical to the last.
No one would want to send their children to a school that nearly killed us.
We better not split us up. That's too scary to comprehend.
Squeaked Jake.
How will I cope with all the rest of you?
We'll always be there,
Said Bettina fiercely.
just as we've always been there for each other till now. We're all too close to stop protecting one another, and we'll always be members of the same class forever, even if that class turn out to be bogus. We'll always have each other's backs, whatever we are, and whatever happens to us.
She put her arm out into the air.
5C forever.
It was joined by a plethora of hooves, wings, paws, claws, hands, flippers, and a robotic limb.
Put your pen down, Colin,
said Hermione.
Just for 1 minute, while we do the handshake, all of us together, while we remember what it felt like to be a class. Then whatever happens to us, we will always have a memory of what it felt like to belong.
So I did. And somehow, I never felt like picking up a pencil again. At least, only for special occasions, such as putting together this booklet of what really went on for tourists on Orpheus. Funny how everyone calls it Orpheus these days. Somehow being part of a gang that really belonged together and wasn't facing some big impossible enemy meant that my thoughts weren't making me suffer every day, and I no longer had to write them down on paper to hide from them and dismiss them. I could feel them without having to remove myself from them, and I also knew that I would never again have as many eyes staring at me as there had been on that fateful night when we were broadcasting to nearly the entire inhabited universe. So this was how other people live their lives, in the present, through their eyes, not their pencils. I still remember that feeling of how strange it was at first, not writing down every little thing that happened to me. But after all, it was time. I'd been a participant in one of the biggest scandals of the third millennium, and thanks to my friends I had held my own. I no longer needed to be a detached observer. People listened to me now too, and wanted to know what I had to say, and I had also learned how powerful words were, in speech as well as in writing. However, many people have asked me what happened after the events of that day, and so I write on, just a little bit longer, from memory, to answer their questions, before we say goodbye.
Does Decreeta look different compared to the last time we were here?
Asked Elfrida, who had spent most of the journey looking out of the window and communing with the stars and grateful thanks. Yes, said Robin, it looks less red somehow, less pockmarked and scarred.
That's it,
nodded Elfrida.
As if it's grown through adolescence and matured into something more grown up. The universe too, in fact, given that it's where the hub of international communications and politics lies.
Oh, I don't know, said Lando, admiring his own spots. I think acne suits some species.
Clandusprods always have spots, silly, whatever their age,
said Hermione.
Hey, the planet does look different, though. Maybe somebody got our message and destroyed the red wing.
The shuttle landed back on Decreeta. We'd all expected the crowds to have dispersed now the Olympics were over. But to our surprise, there were more people than ever, cheering hordes from all species out waiting for us, a sea of colour and spectacle as far as our eyes could see, even Archulus's robotic ones. The banners that had been used by spectators in the Olympic village now had our names written on them in big letters, alongside our pictures ripped from the red weed labels with the product name crossed out.
The sight of that many people is scary,
said Jake.
It's a good job you seem to be on our side now.
We were ushered through to the city hall, the only building on Decreeta still completely standing, in a daze to the sound of much cheering. Well done, children, said the Clandusprod constable. That was a pretty grown-up thing you did between you.
Was it?
Bettina asked, characteristically pushing away to the front.
I always thought being grown-up meant doing responsible stuff, like filling in tax returns and getting mortgages and having children of your own. We didn't do any of that.
It also means risking your life for others, said the constable, which it sounds as if you all did. Repeatedly.
No,
said Bettina.
All this time I haven't been looking forward to growing up, but that part was actually okay.
Better than okay, said Robin, smiling. If adulthood is all like that and caring for people, I don't see what all the fuss is about.
And you,
sighed Elfrida.
Well, the rest of the world is like the part you've seen. I'm not so sure I want to live there just yet.
You're right,
sighed Hermione.
All that meanness we've seen, all those deception and lies and hurt, just for a bit of more money. Is that really so important in adult life? That you would murder for it? Mind you, I wouldn't say no to having some pocket money again one day.
But it's so hard working out who to trust,
said Archulus, shaking his head.
It's illogical finding your way through the maze of who is your best interest at heart and who you can rely on.
I'll say,
snorted Margolo.
even those who are supposed to be protecting you are only really in it for themselves.
Especially when other adults try and trap you and turn you into something you should never be,
sighed Elfrida.
Working out when to love and when to fight is a minefield,
said Squash.
Bash, bash,
Getting older is terrifying,
said Elfrida.
All that responsibility, all those expectations, such pressure to get everything right. To find the right job, to find the right partner, to find food and shelter for yourself and those you care for. To make other people respect you, maybe even get the nerve to ask someone to love you.
She held out Schlus's robotic limb and smiled.
I don't even know who I am now, never mind what I could be. I'm half cooked.
XXXX40 understood, but licked her just to be sure. Causing her to giggle. Agreed Jake, rolling himself up into a ball.
And again, childhood was no picnic either,
Said Hermione sadly.
Mine was.
Said XXXX,
I was hoping for a full banquet.
He said thoughtfully. That said, said Lando, we did see the best of nature too, you know. A lot of people helped us when they didn't have to. Not everyone becomes bad or damaged on growing up. I guess the trick is not to let the bad stuff that happened to you in your life change you too much, or at least only to allow you to grow and not become bitter or angry. Ultimately, all we can do is do our best, and if we do that, then who cares what others think of us?
Very wise observation for a Clandusprod,
Laughed Elfrida.
Soon you'll be putting Mrasianart out of the job. You know, there are some parts of growing up I'm always looking forward to. Things you're not allowed to have as children.
She smiled shyly at Archulus, who pressed a button and put his arm around her. I might have imagined it, but it sounded as if his artificial pacemaker sped up slightly. I think that's what's been the best of all of this adventure, though, said Robin. All of us really learnt from each other, the way friends should. As long as we stay friends, we should be able to navigate adulthood. I mean, it can't be any harder than childhood, can it? Just look at all the people who are listening to us now too with respect, just because of our experience. That's something we never had as children. The others all nodded.
When you've quite finished nattering, said the constable, there are a few formalities that I need you to fulfil. Oh, and lots of paperwork. Here we go,
Sighed Hermione.
This is what adulthood really is, I fear. It starts here.
It'll be all right. Colin will do all the paperwork for us, won't you? Laughed Robin. I already have my pencil out,
Well,
said Bettina after I was done a few seconds later.
shall we do it? Take our first walk together as respected adults.
Together we held each other's hands and walked down the City Hall steps, unified, as the crowd went bananas. This is the best part of being grown up, beamed Robin. Having people I've grown up with I know I can depend on. People who grew up with me, sharing experiences together. At least that will never change, as long as we stay friends. After our celebration on the steps of the City Hall, our first task was to recognise Jack Clandusprod out of a prison lineup. That was easy. He was a shifty-looking number 4. Then there was the trial of Mrs. Maggrumph and Mr. C, alongside the Maggrumph human and Clandusprod manufacturers on Oceanus, who were all put on trial for species slaughter, for the manufacturing of illicit hazardous substances. The free headmaster was due to be put on trial once he had recovered in his hospital bed on medicus. I ended up giving much of our evidence based on my strict notes, though our class all appeared as character witnesses, and we were all there for the summing up. So in summary, I said after making my speech in court, they put their own wealth over the greater good and conducted their business as teachers under false pretences. When we first met, we spake as a child, understood as a child, and thought as a child. But they took that away from us. They caused us to doubt ourselves and each other, at risk of turning us into them, scared, reckless, greedy adults. Together me and my classmates learned to put away childish things and became men and women for survival's needs. In doing so, we gave up that which was the right of every child of any species that ever lived in any age, the right to a happy and carefree childhood, free of the need to become adults before our time. We are not yet ready to give up our childhoods to these adults. Instead, we reclaim them and agree to stay children just that bit longer, without the need to grow up. For, after all, by putting others before ourselves and friendship over profit, we have already proved that we are more worthy of being grown up than you can ever be. I sat down to applause, not least from my class. Suddenly it felt good to have the spotlight on me for once, speaking on something I was impassioned about, rather than all those years when I was being made to talk about something in class I usually had no clue about. So this is why other species talk so much, I thought to myself. What a revelation! All my classmates had been invited to join in the summing up after I had finished, and they all spoke in turn.
You ask if the jury should show pity.
Hermione asked the defendant Agrosian.
Yeah, right.
Guilty as jars. Bash, bash, bash.
Said Squash, throwing the book at the villains, quite literally, before being asked to restrain himself by the Mekkion judge. I know they were in a very difficult situation, said Lando, but they really weren't very nice.
I'll say,
added Bettina, staring him straight in the eyes.
we were supposed to be in your care, but you only cared about money.
So illogical,
said Archelaus.
Everyone knows that pyramid selling doesn't work. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. Fact.
One can only hope that you find some sort of solace and peace as you reflect on your heinous crimes during your sentence and come out of it weaker, but wiser,
said Elfrida.
You're very bad people and very scary,
said Jake.
I still can't believe you do all that, man. Just the same rich,
said Margalo sadly.
I hope you all enjoy doing porridge,
said XXXX. Woof, barked Blotchy, his tail wagging. An impassioned Robin stared Mrs. Maggrumph right in the eyes. You told me I was hopeless, she said. Stripped me of my dignity in front of my friends and tried to break me, to make me feel bad about things I could not change, to rob me of my dream of graduation. At a time when I was at my most vulnerable and most needed help, you were nothing more than wicked bullies, getting stronger off those you considered weaker than you. But thanks to my friends, I am stronger now, and know who I am, and who I am is stronger than you, better than you. We are all better people, for all you try to put us down and make us feel bad about ourselves, as if we had to change for your benefit. No one has the right to destroy the confidence of a child, but we take satisfaction from seeing you put away for the rest of your adult lives to be incarcerated and led by enforced rules like children, without the benefits of being grown up. A democratic jury of 11 aliens, one from each species, reached a verdict of guilty very quickly. Mr. C hung his head, but Mrs. Maggrumph still looked defiant.
Flipping kids, hello,
she said. I'm not going to Skid Row.
She tried to run off, but a policeman placed her firmly back in her seat.
Multiple life sentences,
said the judge.
to be carried out of a prison planet in Carceres, to be served accumulatively, not consecutively, with the possibility of release set not before 150 years.
Yahoo!
Cried Bettina.
We helped give our teachers detention.
We all laughed. The judge continued.
In order that this sort of thing does not happen again, and to ensure that all planets and people on them are safe, a new law is additionally passed. No product is allowed to be sold without proper testing having been carried out by an official doctor. Dr. Houston's gladly agreed to become our consultant. This treaty is to be ratified in law as the Magna Carta, in reference to the redweed magma that did so much to destabilise so many of the planets in our galaxies.
He turned to the defendants in the dock.
Furthermore, all the quadrillions you illegally made from redweed is to be put into a proper school to be reopened on the site of the old one at Orpheus. But it is to be a proper school this time, for international students who want to study at an international place of learning.
The judge turned to us.
You can study there in turn, for free if you wish. Your board and lodging also paid for out of the redweed settlement.
We all looked at each other. Did we really want to go back to school? We had wanted to see so much of the universe.
Please, sir,
said Bettina.
if it's all right with you, we'd like to take a gap year first, to travel to see the stars.
The judge pondered this.
The trouble is, as grown up as you have all proven yourselves to be, physically you are all still underage, and need a legal guardian. I will do it.
Wilbur said, standing up from the witness dock.
I pledge to look after these children as my own. I have more than enough income from my athletic career to pay our way, but one thing I never got from travelling the world as a sportswoman was the chance to have children of my own. I will see to it that they are all looked after, and especially that they will be well fed. That's if they'll have me, not as adult and child, but as equal partners.
We all cheered.
Supplement space spatulas turned supernova, that's wonderful,
yelled Bettina. XXXX cried happy tears.
I feel full,
he sniffled.
For the first time in a long time, I feel as if I don't want for anything.
Our timing caught done. We just had time to meet up with Woowa in the canteen and grab a quick sandwich. Well, for most of us, Woowa in XXX shared one that was 10 feet long and took an age to eat, and talk about what we were going to do.
Let's go everywhere,
said Elfrida, beaming and staring up at the sky.
There are so many stars that they're twinkling away. We've been ensconced indoors for so very long.
Logically, not all of you will be inhabited, you know,
said Archelaus.
Fuck.
Then maybe we should get busy then.
Elfrida said, putting her arms around him.
A whole year without school,
Said Hermione.
Just think of all the important napping and TV viewing I'm going to get done.
Better than that, smiled Robin. When we do go back to school, we will be together, and we will be with proper children too. Who knows? I might even graduate after all.
If you do,
Said Willowwood.
I will be a very proud adopted mum.
Only Margalo looked thoughtful and pensive.
I know she wasn't a very good parent,
Said the Maggrumph.
and a horrible teacher. But Mrs. Maggrumph was still my mum, and unlike most of you, I had close relatives for the world.
You can go visit her on Ensconce, you know.
Said Elfrida.
She might turn over a new leaf there. You can get a proper parent at last.
We'll all go with you if you want, for support, said Lando. We're with you wherever you go now, Margalo. He put his arm round the Maggrump's shoulders.
Thank you.
Margalo smiled.
It feels good to have a proper family at last. Not a biological one, a real one. I always wanted to be part of one.
Suddenly we were aware of a noise outside, a great crowd chanting.
Oh, look,
Said Bettina, peering outside.
the medal bus has pulled up outside, as if a ceremony is about to take place. I thought the first intergalactic Olympics had been declared null and void after that red weed business. It's not being held again until next year.
I wonder who they're arriving for, asked Robin. The horn honked impatiently. The driver gesticulated at us, peering through the cheering. Wait, are they waiting for us?
That's odd.
Said Elfrida, peering.
It's not a medal bus, but an education bus. They only ever give awards out to the highest of students. But we're at the wrong end of the school year for that, aren't we?
The driver waved much harder now, was definitely pointing in our direction. No, said Robin, it can't be for us. Can it? I mean, we haven't actually learnt anything while this has all been going on.
Yeah, right.
Said Hermione.
They only give out those medals to those who excel at education, and none of us have. I mean, running away from your class on a school trip and getting your teacher imprisoned and your school burnt down doesn't exactly put us in the front of the league for educational brilliance. If it did, every student would do that instead of sitting exams. It's so much easier.
On the contrary,
Said a Mrasianart in golden robes, opening the door.
you have shown skills of fearlessness, leadership, teamwork, initiative, research and perseverance. You have learned greatly as individuals and grown alongside each other, helping your classmates as you did so, each and every one of you. If that isn't education of the highest order, then I don't know what is.
But we're not book smart.
Said Bettina.
If you sat us down for a test now, we'd all fail.
Hissed Hermione.
We'll have our chance of graduating taken away. Might be the only one a class like us can ever get.
The Mrasianart laughed.
If I took something away from you children, you would only come and find us and take what is rightfully yours anyway. You've proven that. People get it wrong. They think that education is something that starts and ends in school, a series of facts that are learnt by rote until they aren't needed any longer. What you have done is taken your skills and adapted them to a great quest that would have flummoxed the very brightest of our adults. Well, learn to think for yourselves. There is no greater aim in education than that, despite the amount of teachers who take the easier route and just make you copy what they know. They've all learnt several valuable life lessons that maybe, in turn, can be taught to us. Your escapades have made headlines all the way around the universe, but deserved recognition.
Who are you? Asked Robin.
I am Professor Edulearning. I have been appointed your new headmaster. I have been running the prestigious Camford University on Mars, the highest seat of learning for Mrasianart students.
Gosh,
Breathed in Elfrida.
I've always wanted to go there. There was nowhere near bright enough.
But I have been dreaming of going out amongst the stars while I have been stuck inside teaching. Much like you, I hear.
Said the Mrasianart, laughing at the look on Elfrida's face as he said it.
So I've agreed to found a new school of Orpheus once it is rebuilt and ready for students in about a year's time, depending on several conditions. But students get proper tasty, nutritional food, not a second-hand replicator diet.
XXXX grinned.
But classrooms be adapted to species with particular needs, such as the installation of extra protective tables.
Jake smiled.
Or longer time for students with conditions like dyspraxia.
Robin grinned.
The timetables are altered to suit individual needs.
Hermione and Archelaus both laughed.
But lessons are made harder to stretch our brightest pupils and made easier for those who are struggling.
Elfrida and Lando both cheered.
But no pupil gets left behind, no matter the history of past schools.
Robin clapped her hands.
And above all, that pupils learn what they need to know to grow in adult life, not what they need to learn to go through in order to get there.
Mrasianart grinned at our response.
You have all seen education at its worst. Now I hope you will see it at its best and flourish, you and all the other students we take in your wake. However, first, there is one favour I would like to ask you.
Oh, great,
Said Hermione, rolling her eyes.
here it comes. I hate it when adults use that expression. It's never anything good.
I would love to have one of you as a spokesperson,
Said Mrasianart and flustered.
to tell their story, to teach us how to teach you if you like. Though in between life with the rest of you and the stars, of course, it would only be a part-time job.
Teachers,
Said Bettina.
groupers, do we get to say homework?
Well, in a sense,
Said Mrasianart in a mystical sort of a way.
don't all of us get homework in our lives, taking on board ideas from listening to people pass on their wisdom, adopting it for ourselves?
Oh, I meant as in writing essays and stuff.
Said Bettina, shifting uncomfortably.
If you like,
Winked for Mrasianart.
the form that wisdom takes is up to you. But I was thinking more of a guided tour.
We all gathered round Bettina. You're our spokesperson, whispered Robin. You should do it.
No,
Said Bettina quickly.
I get terribly shy and probably bored and start stammering again. Standing around and talking is not really my thing. No, if I were to actually be out there doing something.
I think there is another one among you with a tale to tell, an observer of the highest order,
We all looked round at each other.
a Camalosian who sees all and knows more.
Me? I stammered, suddenly realising that I was talking. Talk to people? In person? I couldn't.
Yes,
Smiled the Mrasianart. You would be passing on the brave deeds of your classmates rather than your own, and the spotlight would be shared between you, as you would be judged on events from the past that proved to be the right ones, not some uncertain future gains. You have now found your voice, I think, and it is time to use it. To my surprise, I found that I rather liked the idea. If you think I'm right for the job, I asked hesitantly.
It will be perfect.
Smiled the Mrasianart. Everyone grinned.
And now that's settled, there is a bus waiting outside for you all to take you to one last ceremony.
We were standing on the Olympic podium rooftop, the biggest one they had in the main square that had once been intended for the final winners of the overall Indecagon competition. It leaned to one side thanks to the red weed, but that was all right. We just put XXXX and Wurrowur down one end, and it evened up again. Why are we here again? Whispered Robin.
I don't know.
Said Bettina.
Might be a long way down.
Said Hermione.
I need some supper.
Said XXXX. You just had your lunch, pointed out Lando.
Exactly.
Said XXXX.
So next it's supper time, then it's afternoon tea time, before that it's before noon tea time, and after that it's way after afternoon tea time.
Blotchy barked and wagged his tail. He'd become much stupider again now that he had cooled down, and was just like the pet we'd first known during our time on Orpheus. He was still smart enough to hang around Doosbury Giants when hungry, safe in the knowledge that they dropped the most interesting crumbs. The mayor of Decreeta, a human who had temporarily been put in charge of the International Peace Organisation, following the disgrace and resignation of President J, walked up to the podium with several objects in his hands.
Ladies and gentlemen, St.
Belobrat, she said, we ask you to be gathered here for the closing medal ceremony of the first Intergalactic Olympic Games. As you know, that ceremony cannot now take place due to an influx of cheating and misuse of substances. Something like this at our first event could easily have disgraced our games in the eyes of the future. However, instead our first games have merely been postponed, not cancelled, thanks to these children who have demonstrated the Olympic mottos of faster, higher, better, stronger, and the importance of teamwork better than any sporting event ever could. We had our individual medals for each species all ready to go, but now we find no athletes to hand them to. So instead we hand over these medals to each of these brave children as tokens of our esteem, as well as a collection of keys made up of elements from all 11 known inhabited planets that symbolises the freedom of the universe, so that during their gap year they may travel wherever they wish, unhindered, and enjoy the hospitality of every planet in the known universe. Going to each of us in turn, she handed the trophies out that symbolised our planets. Only one athlete was known to have not cheated during these games and showed great bravery, not just in overcoming the red and blue weed and seed manufacturers, but in standing up to her peers and refusing to take these illicit materials. We already knew that Wuwa was a great athlete. Now we know she's a great person as well, who symbolises the Olympic motto of faster, higher, stronger, smarter, braver and less squeaky, better than most. Wuwa received a golden medal, which she bit into, the way Robin had seen so many athletes do at home.
Oops,
Said Wuwa, spitting out the gold edging.
I forgot it wasn't food. Well, now I know what it tastes like. Chocolate.
The mayor continued. To Jake the Glabdiharbit, a golden table in memory of a time when he was the bravest Glabdiharbit that ever there was, and to remind him to be so in the future, a true knight of under the table in the modern age. The trophy was placed in his paws as Jake squeaked at the sight of so many faces looking up at him. To Squash, a golden bucket to represent the time when he helped overthrow a dangerous invader and to remind him in the future that he can do anything. Squash took his bucket, but overbalanced so that it ended up squashing him instead. To Bettina, a special gold three-headed coin embossed into a plant pot from the days of the hanging gardens of Belobrat to remind her of her worthiness and the time when her leadership skills were just what her friends needed most. Bettina blushed as she held her prizes.
I don't know what to say.
She started.
Yeah, right.
Added Hermione with a grin. To Hermione, a golden card in the shape of an alarm clock with a generous snooze button to remind her of all the times she seemed to be the only Habridat awake to what was really going on in the universe, with a card to be received every year hereafter in honour of all she achieved. Hermione took the gift and grinned.
A card? I actually got a card.
To Lando, a model representation of the darkest cave of Clandusprod, with the special light within, as a reminder of the time he was such a bright light to all his friends. Lando was well chuffed with his gift and showed it to all of us. It's just like my story of Gartha, he said. To XXXX, a golden representation of a national Doosbury dish, a marshmallow pie. It dispenses real marshmallows. There's an endless supply.
Wow,
Said XXXX, pressing a button and handing some round to each of us, and 3 to Blotchy. To Margalo, the golden lanterns of destiny, a reminder that she is unbreakable no matter how many bad things have been done to her. Margalo was very pleased.
I wish Mum was here to see me.
She said. To Archulus, a golden fuse in memory of a time when not only his knowledge but his instincts and emotions had such accuracy that they saved the universe.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
Said Archulus.
Fact.
When he got so emotional, Elfrida had to fit a new fuse in for him. To Elfrida, this golden version of Nagel's nose flute, which created beautiful music for him when he was experiencing the depths of despair, as a reminder that the greatest belief comes from within.
I shall treasure it,
Said Elfrida, playing a quick tune of golden sounds on it. To Colin, a golden pen and inkstand, to remind him that he always has plenty to say. Thank you, I said, for this was a great honour. I don't know what to say. Everyone laughed. And to Robin, this Earth trophy is a reminder that although she may not always have balance of the physical realm, to her friends she had just the right balance of skills needed to overcome adversity. Thank you, said Robin, crying and clutching it to her chest. I've never won anything before. I'm so used to coming in last. Finally, to Blotchy, said the mayor, this golden feeding bowl. The Argibraph sat up, put his paws out and begged. Yeah, he panted, wagging his tail, all proper conversation gone.
I guess it's gone cold again.
Whispered Bettina.
Oh well, I rather preferred him this way. He's back to being a pet like he always was.
Together we took a bow as the applause from the crowd rang out, holding each other's hands, wings, flippers, hooves, robotic limbs, claws and paws.
I'd like to thank you on behalf of the class and ourselves,
Said Bettina, walking up to the microphone.
and I think we just passed graduation.
By now it was running late on Decreeta, and the stars were coming out. Some of the front row were beginning to get quite sleepy. Everyone go home now, said the mayor. But the people didn't want to go home yet. Tell us a story, they chanted. Tell us again how you saved us all from the red weed. Smiling, the mayor turned to me, handing me the microphone. Yes, Colin, tell us a story. Yes, said Robin, that's right. You haven't told us your story yet, Colin. But I had no other stories to tell. This was a good one, and the crowd wanted to hear it. So instead I started our story again, from the beginning.